All right, welcome back, everybody. My name is Mike DiMuccio. I'm your host at Aligning with Success. It is almost the month end, Monday, August 30th. So tomorrow's month end. Hope you guys are cruising into a nice, good finish for the month. I'm like moments away from finding out whether or not I got another silver on my team. So let you know if that happens before the call is out. But it's been a good month. I hope you all been taking advantage of the extreme heat and suggesting people drink more water, but not just any water, of course, Biomag water. Anyways, any questions before or any announcements before I go into my agenda for tonight? Does anybody have anything they want to ask or have brought up on the call that we can get into? Feel free if you have a question, if you have something you'd like to know more about. There's no stupid question, there's just questions. Wow, okay. So I guess it's sit back and enjoy the show. I don't know. All right. Well, if something does come up as a question or something that you want to get into with respect to subject material, this call is always about aligning with success, which means basically sharpening the axe, getting to have a better awareness of how to apply ourselves so that we can get better results in the business. And it's an ongoing process. It's not something that's static. We hope to improve as time goes on and as life goes on. So how many of you participated in last week's Niken Now presentation with our CEO, Luis Kasuga? Just show your hand if you were on that call. Okay. Not everybody, some, I see hands going up in various, okay, maybe half of you. Let me just check something out. Somebody just asked a question. So the chat says, I would like an episode on out-of-country sales and new consultants. Not sure what that means, and new consultants. I guess you mean sponsoring out of country and selling out of country. Yeah, that's what it is. Just a quick on that, so you have somewhere to start. In your back office, under My Business, there's international. When you click on that, you're able to access the various, well, for instance, Latin America, you can actually go into the Latin American website. But there are country packs. So for instance, if you have a prospect in the United Kingdom that you'd like to register, then you would have to do the paperwork on that. If you were trying to register them in Latin America, because you have a portal in the back office to the Latin American website, which is much more up to speed, you would be able to, in fact, enroll somebody in the back office or make them a customer in the back office for Latin America. So the only real nuance is Europe. In Europe, we still need a paper trail. And so you would find the documents necessary to register either a customer or a consultant in the back office for that particular country. However, there are some countries in Europe that Niken does not have an office, but they do in fact ship to. So if you're looking for access into the European market, there is a website that you can access. Let me see if I can find it quick here. It is international customers. So look for customers.niken.com, and that will give you a site that allows you to actually ship product orders to consumers in different countries in Europe that are not necessarily a Niken country. So just follow the instructions there. And I've had, for instance, my cousins in Italy receive Niken products through this portal. So I hope that answers your question. At least it's a start. As far as, sponsoring them and all that, the process is no different. It's the same. We need to educate them, inform them, answer their questions, determine their needs, their interests, and then decide which path is best for them, either the customer path or the consultant path. And then once it's chosen, say the consultant path, then there are also paths within that. we were talking about this the last couple of weeks. It's like, how does this person want to engage Nikken? Where do they see, what do they see for Nikken based on their goals and expectations? So there's been a lot of discussion about this, and maybe we should visit this again. I'll give you an example. So I just put out an email to this new emerging team, and I requested, this is what I requested of them. And I think I covered this last week, but I'll just do it again real quick. I said, okay, I'm going to have a private conversation with each of you on the team. Here's what I'd like you to do. Email me your current income and the hours that you work to receive that current income. Now, why would I ask for that? Because that gives me an understanding of their mind, what they are conditioned to accept, what their belief system is currently able to hold. So whatever that number is, it's not a judgment. It's just simply what is the number. So it gives us a starting point. Why the amount of time? Because that tells us how many hours they're willing to invest to earn that money. Okay, so it gives us their work ethic, meaning it's not speculation, it's what they're actually doing. And then I asked them for the education or the time frame it took them and the education or the educational costs to work their way up to that income, because that has to be factored in too. They didn't just jump into a job at that income level. They had to work their way into that, whether it was out of high school or out of college, usually. What did that cost if it was a college degree? So there was an investment of time, there was an investment of money, ramping up their skill level, their confidence level, whatever, so that they could acquire the job that they're, or maybe even they've been working at that job for a few years because they, maybe they had a starter position and they've been working their way up. So it gives us context. And I think that's so important, because it tells us and them, we're on the same page now, tells us until now, this is what you've been willing to do. Until now, you've been willing to invest this much time, this much energy over this many years to get to this point in time where you're making this much money for this many hours a week or a month. It gives us perspective. Now, when we then turn our attention to the Nikken business, which is a business they intend to do part-time on the side, it now creates a little bit more meaning for the business and the objectives, because you don't want somebody telling you, I want to make $1 million in 6 months. Because I'd tell you, that's a person who's not only lying to themselves about this, but God knows what other things they lie to themselves about. So yeah, you can't work with that. So we got to keep people real. And the only way to keep them real and honest is to have some perspective. So then I asked them, I'd like your income goals for the next 90 days. Meaning the next 90 days. So in a 90-day window, how much would you like to earn as we learn to build the business? So it's a learning process, it's a learning curve, but they're going to earn at the same time. So that also creates a bit of perspective that you're learning as you go, but you're going to be earning. Now, what's also interesting about that is there's going to be a number. That number has a value. And so now I know that if they hit that number, there's a pretty good chance they will have made up most of the money, if not all of the money, that they will or are considering investing in getting their Nikken Wellness Home going for their sake and for their business sake. So again, puts perspective. If you're telling me you want to make $1,500 over the next 3 months, and you bought a waterfall, which was, I don't know, $600-700, depending on where you're buying it from, well, that's a 200 times return on investment. On your investment, right? That's a pretty good return on investment for any business. How many businesses do you know expect a return on investment in 3 months? Not that many. So again, perspective. It helps them realize that there's genuine value here, and then it makes the investment not so big a deal. It makes it much more manageable, much more likely and appreciated. So now, I also then say, I'd like to know what your income. I'd like to know what your income is going to be a year out from now. So your business income is the words I use. I'd like to know what your business income is a year out from now. So that means they've had a year to build. And now starting in a year's time, what do they expect annual, by the way? What do they expect their annual income to be a year out from now? So we know that we're working on building an asset up to a certain ability to provide cash flow. And I use an annual term, not a monthly term. Why? It's much more, it's a better perspective. Again, much better perspective to look at annual income. It's thinking big picture. Oh, well, looks like we do have a new silver on the team. Let me just make a thank you. Okay, cool. That was real time. How about that, huh? That was my niece Elena, by the way, who's the third in the trio who just crossed silver as we're talking here. Anyway, I don't even think she knows because that was a customer. So let's see, where are we going? Okay, so your income, your business income 3 in a years out, and your business income 3 years out. So now again, we're creating a long-term picture. When you start getting a person to think in those terms about building something, about it taking 1 to 3 years to get to those incomes, then you're making that person understand you're taking this serious, you're taking their business objectives serious. They start to understand and appreciate that this actually is a business, and it starts to become more possible and more plausible, which changes their belief system. If they believe it's possible, then they make it possible. If they don't believe it's possible, they make it impossible. It's so simple. This is the law of attraction at work. So I know all I'm ever dealing with is somebody's belief system. It's all you're ever dealing with, because they will work in accordance to what they believe to be true. And if you give them a hypothetical that is so out of reach and so unrealistic because you think they need to be hyped up or patted on the back for thinking so big, they're going to not believe it's true. They're going to know you're lying to them. They may not say that out loud, but the subconscious mind knows the truth. And so all that setup was for them to do nothing, because their belief system doesn't support it. And so they won't take any action. So this idea of setting a goal with somebody, these objectives, makes it more likely for them to actually believe it possible and to start doing what it takes to make it possible. Now, we got those goals, income goals. Now what we want to do is look at their investment. What are the 3 things we invest in, again? Time, money, contacts. Okay, I'm very clear about that. All my PowerPoints show that. Time, money, contacts, those 3 things. So number 1, I asked them for how many hours per week. So that means we're going to look for some baseline, and it said minimum time frame. So minimum time hours per week. Then I asked them for what is the list of products they've purchased already or contemplating purchase to achieve their business objective in the next 90 days, referencing again, their income goal in 90 days. So now they start to look at that and say, oh, gee, I don't know. Did I get enough? Did I get too much? Like, they at least start to question, right? Because it's got a relationship now to the outcome, and it really does. And then I asked them, how many names have you currently added to your contact list? Now, I don't say, do you have your $1 million list, or do you have your 100 names? I don't ask that. I ask, how many have you added to your list so far? Why? Because this is going to tell me where they are at in terms of their investment. Their contact list is their biggest investment. And so then when I actually connect with them, meet with them, talk to them about this, I'm going to say, okay, looks like we got this, but wait, 5 names? Really? What part of this equation are we not understanding? So it gives us the opportunity to have a real conversation, an honest conversation. And the more honest the conversation, the more transparent, the more real, the more they will trust you. And the more they trust you, the more likely they're going to follow the instructions that you provide and respect the people you introduce them to. So this is my tips for getting somebody going in the business. I think it's really, really important. All right, let's, any questions, by the way, about that? Any thoughts or questions about that? Okay, thumbs up. All right, let's talk about what we learned about last week from Luis Kasuga, our CEO. And I want to bring up a PowerPoint because he was referencing this, I guess, this version of this PowerPoint. It's called The Rhythm of the Business, and it's everything. In everything I've learned in Nikken, everything I've learned in this business since the beginning of this business was, I guess this goes back to my engineering background as well, is, you know, it'll come out in this presentation. Everything is frequency. Everything is frequency. Energy is frequency. Frequency is energy. It's everything's frequency. Everything's energy. So when you look at creating a business, a growing business, what you're looking at is energy. You're a system of energy. And is this system expanding or contracting, or just simply going sideways? So how do we create an expanding system of energy where the expansion starts to have a life of its own, and it goes beyond you, beyond your ability? And I experienced this really, really early on in my Nikken career, because I gave it a real big push, and that push caused something to ignite, and that ignition started to have a life of its own. And I spent the rest of my days trying to catch up and figure out what I did right, and teach that in a way that people could understand. And the only thing we can do is just keep giving that energy system a push every now and then with some degree of rhythm. And it'll become more obvious when I show you this next slide. Actually, let me show you this slide here. So let's talk about the idea of creating alignment for growth and momentum. So I use this example. You're sitting around a swimming pool. Let's say you're the observer. Let's say the observer is the creator, observing your thoughts. Or this could be you leading a team. And around this swimming pool represents your team of individuals, or it could represent your thoughts, your individual thoughts. And if these things are not aligned, let's say they have a rock in their hand, and they're going to throw this rock into the swimming pool, creating waves. So this rock thrown into the swimming pool is like an idea thrown into the ethers of creation. Or your teammate doing something random in the business. If there is randomness to the activity, then what ends up happening is you create splashes in the pond and the pool, and to the observer, all they're seeing is splashes, waves crashing into one another. There's no rhyme or reason to this. There's no pattern. And so it's just random noise, random results. And it's pretty hard to create any momentum of any kind when you've just got randomness going on in your business. There's no way to create momentum, and momentum is key. So what's the way to do the same thing, the same energy, only we're going to make that energy work for us instead of against us? So here's the challenge. How do I synergistically align all these multiple visions and action plans in an industry that promotes individuality? You know, we tell everybody, yo, you can do this your way, you can do this whenever you want, blah, blah, blah. Individuality and self-expression. We promote this all the time, except it's pretty damn hard to meet organizational expectations. Are you wondering why I'm breaking silvers? Has that occurred to you? Sophia went silver this month. Savannah and Elena went silver. Do you think it's like an accident, or is there maybe some actually coordinated effort here? Aligned activity, aligned effort. Of course, that's the answer, because that's what creates momentum, and momentum is what creates results. Random activity doesn't create those types of achievements. So I want to meet organizational and corporate goals. My organizational goals are to help these people break silver. Corporate goals is to have, 10 million new active wellness members in the next 4 years. How do we get that to happen if everybody's doing their own thing? Everybody's got their own idea what that looks like. It's simply ridiculous to even consider that's going to happen. We've got to bring alignment to this. And so alignment is nothing more than saying, okay, everybody, here's what we're going to do. Downline, upline, crossline, Nikken, everybody. On the count of 3, we're going to take our rock. We're going to aim at the center of the pond or the pool on the count of 3 and throw it in. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Boom, all of a sudden, big splash, huge wave. And to the observer sitting on the diving board, looking over that wave, they see a very clear and defined wave and wavefront expanding. Now that looks like to the creator an intention, a very clear intention. It's like, oh, that's what they want. Well, we can do that. You see what I mean? It's not random. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps sideways, 5 steps forward, 6 steps back. I mean, that's random. But if everybody is lockstep moving 1 step forward, then we all move together. So creating alignment is the key. That's why I call this call aligning with success. Alignment is everything. So what is needed? We need a structure. We need a support structure that empowers duplication of leadership, which delivers understanding in a timely way through rank advancements. So that's what Luis Casigo was talking about. He was talking about this idea. And this is a natural way of looking at it. That bridge on the top of that photograph, that was hit with wind. It just so happened that the wind was hitting that bridge at the natural frequency of the bridge. Every structure has its own frequency. As I said before, we now know what the frequency of this glass is. Let me say it again. Notice it didn't change because that's the frequency of the glass. When you strum the glass, it resonates. That's the resonant frequency or the harmonic frequency of that glass. Now, if I sing a note, at that note, consistently, that glass is going to continue to expand and expand and expand, and eventually it will not be able to hold itself together like that bridge that collapses. Or a simpler example is a swing. You ever push somebody on a swing? What happens if you push them at the wrong time? So you can't get any momentum. You can't get any altitude on that swing unless you hit the timing of it right. It's the timing of it. It's the rhythm of that motion. If you match that rhythm, the swing has more amplitude. You get more height into it. And that's the key to rhythm. Everything has its own natural rhythm, including unique in business. There's 2 types of rhythms. There's advancing and oscillating. How many of you have a business that's just going back and forth, but not really going anywhere? That's an oscillating rhythm. You have a rhythm, but it ain't going anywhere. It's just oscillating back and forth. An advancing structure, an advancing rhythm is like that jack. Click, 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 but it's a ratchet. It keeps going up. And now you've got an advancing structure. So what we want is an advancing structure. We want our rhythm to get us somewhere. So when we look at the Royal Diamond business or the Nikken business, it's really a business of events timed together to create rhythm. And so if you've got people moving from event to event, let me just fast forward here. This is the slide that you saw. If you've got people moving from event to event, and each event has a reason to be, it's not the same event, okay? Let me repeat that. Each event has a reason to be in the progressive timeline. It's not the same event. Why do we not want it to be the same event? Because that's an oscillating system. It's like doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result each time. You've got to stretch the elastic band, stretch it again, but each time you're stretching it, it's at a different place. So the message, the information, the content has to advance. And so what we have here is an advancing structure. And I'll give you the most fundamental thing about it. I'll give you an example. If you're a silver in rank, the role that you play for your local business, and today's businesses are still somewhat local. I mean, if I looked at your businesses, I would say, if you're silver, you probably have a business that consists of friends and family in your town. If you're gold, you probably have a business that consists of friends, family, acquaintances. It's expanded now, and it's probably limited to maybe your, a 90-minute drive from your house. If you're a platinum business, if you've hit the rank of platinum, my guess is the pebble in the pond has rippled out to include people in your state or province. If you're a diamond business, pretty sure that your business consists primarily of people in the country you're living in. Not exclusively, but primarily. 70 to 80% of your business is defined by the country you live in if you're a diamond, but your business is across multiple states. If you're a royal diamond business, my guess is your business is now international on a larger scale. So that means maybe half of your income comes from your main country and the other half comes from the other countries around. If you're a Royal Ambassador, which we don't have that rank currently, but when we do have that rank, and I'm sure we will, some version of it, it means your business is everywhere Nikken is. So technically speaking, I'm a Royal Ambassador because my business is everywhere Nikken is. The ripple effect has gone wherever Nikken is. So more of a global effect. So you can see that these ranks are degrees of influence that your business has had in the world. And given the degree of influence that you have, you're influencing the activities of your business. So, and again, like I said, now that we're online, a lot of these things, these parameters are a little bit different, but not too different. So let's take a look at this silver ship. A silver who's got a local business or local influence. What are they doing to ensure that their business is not stagnant, is not just an oscillating business? What are they doing to empower people to change ranks? What are they providing as a service for their business partners? Not their customers, their business partners. Well, this may be one of the things you need to look at if you're not doing this. That says WHB and /SS, different terms than maybe what you're accustomed to. I called this a wellness home briefing, or you can call it a wellness preview. But what are we talking about here? We're essentially talking about the briefing of what it means to operate an Nikken wellness home and a wellness home business. So if you're not having that conversation or providing a platform for that conversation where your team is concerned, then where are they learning this? Then there's the Smart Start, the SS, or strategy session, which I usually call it. It's the basic training. If your new team members aren't getting trained on how to get started, how are they getting started? Like who's setting goals with them, etc. So if you don't have this structure of weekly activities happening, you're not going to have a team, and your team is not going to be growing. So that's one of the things that we learned, is that there's a needed structure in order to ensure personal development and business development skills. And who are you expecting to do it? Right now, a number of the platinums, diamonds, myself, and Ben, for instance, have taken the responsibility of most of you guys to do for you what you should be doing for yourself. We know that. We knew that when we did it because we needed to get it going. But now we need to take off our silver hat and start acting like the royal diamond hat, which this call is really more about. And you guys need to be taking off the customer hat and put on the business owner hat and start acting like a business owner. And say, okay, what do I need to do for my business to have a presence locally? What can I do? What service can I provide? I remember sometimes being the only person in the meeting. That's okay. The meeting will go on. The show will go on. So that's an example of a structural event that happens with a rhythm, a weekly rhythm, that we assign that protocol, that role to the silver, because if they're not a silver doing that, then they're really not a silver in their business capacity. They may be just acting like a Nikken consultant, or even worse, just a customer pretending to be a business owner. So this gives us a way to help people develop. It's a management platform, if you will. It's a way of understanding how to make the business grow. Because now I know if somebody achieves the rank of silver, what do you think I'm going to encourage them to start doing with their team? They're going to do a training at least once a week, and they're going to do a call where they can have members join that call and learn about the Nikken Wellness Home and the Wellness Home business. Yes, there's other ways to learn about Nikken, but how do they learn about them? How do they learn about the community? How do they learn about the people involved in the team? How do you create a team experience if you don't have some type of, how would the church ever have existed if it wasn't for Sunday Mass? You see what I'm saying? There has to be something that happens with enough regularity that gathers the flock and keeps things moving along. So in this scenario, the A is the silver, the B is the new partner who's joined the team, and of course the C is the prospect that they're introducing this to. So the presenter is the A, they present. The partner B Their job is to just speak when they're asked to speak. And the only thing they should be talking about is their personal experience. They validate what the presenter is saying. So if I start talking about the water technology, it's fantastic. And I say, hey, Catherine, you've been using yours for a couple of weeks now. What do you think? Then you're going to tell me what you think about the water on behalf of the prospect, who may have heard it already, but you see, I'm eliciting the information. It's being validated. And so the job of the prospect, the target audience, is to just simply evaluate the information and decide if it's a fit for them. So this process of the ABC has a goal. The goal is to help the prospect turn into a new partner. And the goal then is to help that new partner through this process, if you do it enough times, to become your next silver. So how many ABCs does it take for that to happen? Well, it takes one ABC for a prospect to become a partner, but I don't know how many ABCs are necessary for that partner to become a silver, but I can tell you my experience, it's at least 30. Some might be better than others. Sophia did it in 25, but not far off of 30. If I had to roll the dice and guess, I'd say bank on 30. So when I have a protocol that says you need a list and your list needs to have about 100 names, because guess what? We need to find the 30 people of that list right away who we can take through this process so I can create a silver by doing it. I have a strategy. Now, does the new partner need to know the strategy? No. What do they need to know? How to get somebody in front of the A, which means how to contact and invite somebody from their list and how to get them in front of the A into that partnering process. That's the only skill that a partner needs, is that. But everybody needs it. Everybody needs that skill. It's the first skill. How to contact and invite people and get them into the partnering process. That's the skill. And how often should that rhythm be happening? How often should somebody be making contact with somebody new? Once a month, once a year, or at least a couple of times a day. If you ask Leo LeMay on this call, he'll tell you his protocol is 2 to 3 new contacts per day. And he's got it going on. So I would trust that's the right number. So if you've got 2 to 3 contacts, at least 2 happening a day, inviting new people into the process, you're acting like a partner. If you don't even have that going on, what kind of business are you operating? That sounds more like, to me, a hobby. And my experience of hobbies is they cost money. They don't make you money. Sorry to be honest, but you'd rather I was honest, right? So this is helping us establish some kind of a daily method of operation, a DMO that says, okay, I should be expecting to do that. And I should be, if I can expect that of myself, can I expect that of my partners? Yeah. And so we set a basic understanding of what it takes to advance, because now that partner is going to have enough going on in the system that their rank advancement to silver is inevitable. And do we want our partners to advance to silver?
Yeah.
Every time, yes. Every time I meet with a new person, I tell them my role as their mentor in this equation, which, by the way, since we now have silvers, what hat do I wear? Anybody?
Gold.
What is that?
Gold.
Correct. Gold. Yes, Mike is a royal diamond, but to these people, what difference does that make? That doesn't help them. They don't need to know what I know. They just need to know what they need to know. So I take off my royal diamond hat, I put on my gold hat, and I talk to them from that point of view. What do they need to know from that point of view? When there was no silver, who was wearing the silver hat in this tribe?
You.
Yeah, there was no silver. So everybody was a partner. Somebody had to be the silver, the A, doing all the ABCs. Guess who that was? Yeah. So now I got a few more silvers. We can share the load on the ABCs. And where those silvers are concerned, I can take my hat off, my silver hat, put my gold hat, and I can start talking to the silvers about what the silvers need to know. And guess what the silvers need to know? We just talked about it. They need to know about the weekly rhythm. You're about to say that, Catherine? I think you were about to say that. So yeah, the silvers need to know the next piece of this. That's the launch. The silvers need to understand the launch strategy. They became a silver by being a passenger in my launch car. But now they have to be a driver in a launch car and pull a few passengers with them. They now have to understand what it means to be a strategist or what the strategy is. So it's not enough to know the partnering process, which they kind of know pretty well now. Now they have to understand, how do I engage my newbies into an activity level where they can achieve the outcome that I just achieved? What did it take for me to say, okay, let's go for it? What's that? That, if you could harness that or package that, what's that thing? What did I feed them that got them to say, let's do this? And they started doing the partnering thing on a daily basis. And by the end of the month, it's all come together, done, tied up loose. Okay, silver, good, done. You see what I'm saying? I was operating the strategy, they were operating the partnering process. And that was the key to the success. Everybody played their role. But if nobody has a role and nobody understands their role and nobody's playing a role, there's just random stuff going on, how do you ever create an outcome? So these are the fundamentals, the daily and weekly rhythms, and who's responsible for what is the key. Now, if you want to go beyond that, which is where I'm at now with this team, I'm going to have to put on the gold hat. And guess what I have to teach my new silvers? How to be team leaders, how to start taking charge of their new partners, how to get engagement of those new partners. So as a gold, I need to facilitate an ABC where I'm able to help the new partners progress to silver. What could I possibly have to do with helping Sophia or Savannah or Elena with their new partners? What role could I play now? They're silvers. They know what they're doing. How do I engage this process so that I can help those silvers move those partners up to silver? Well, what this says is a gold team call. Guess what time when the call is? Wednesday, 8 o'clock. There's a call. My girls don't even know I'm on this agenda. They're going to find this out when I teach them this next. So on Wednesday at 8 o'clock, there's a call that's going to be very specific. And it's going to empower my new silvers to propel the partners who want to run for silver that month. In other words, it's going to be an event that targets an action plan for the month of September. And who's going to be directing that conversation? Me. And who's inviting the partners? My new silvers. So I'm working the strategy exactly as it's written here. And that's how you get movement. So any questions about any of this? No questions?
Here.
You have a question? No? Okay, so by the way, the event, the monthly event, what event do you think I'm going to plug everybody into? There's got to be a monthly event. Check the Nikan calendar. Is anything going on in the month of September?
Okay, master class.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
the
There
next.
you go. So there is something going on the big calendar in September.
Seiko Kai.
Yeah, it's on the 25th. So, so we're going to target that as an event. I would like to see some recognition at that event. Well, who do you think is going to be recognized at the next Seiko Kai? Any guesses?
Silvers.
And who are they?
Savannah and Elena.
Correct.
Elena.
You can bet they're going to be on that Seiko Kai. Well, if they're going to be on it, where's their team? They should be in the chain. They should be in the rafters congratulating. And this is how you build a downline. Step by step, lockstep. Everybody knows what they're doing. Somebody is one step ahead of everybody doing the conductor. Okay, everybody, on the count of 3, throw your rocks. So I'm not going to give you any more because you don't really need any more at this moment, but it doesn't get much more complicated. It's just the same thing. ABC, ABC, ABC. So there's a regional strategy, there's a national strategy, there's an international strategy, and they're all ABCs, and they all have an A, a B, and a C. The A is the presenter, the B validates, the C is the target audience. Cool, huh? Okay. Enough about that. Any questions? Have I confused you or have I clarified things for you?
You certainly have clarified it for me. Thank you.
Yes, it's very clear.
Mhm.
It did for me too, thanks.
Perfect, perfect. So now you can, yes. Question? So what I would probably do is sort of look at, I hope you took some notes, but I would say, okay, take two things from tonight's call that are actionable, two things that you can actually do. You can take action on. You don't have to do it all, just two. What two things come to mind that you feel are actionable? Write it down. These are things that I can apply right now. Write it down. Because if all you did was that, you'd be already ahead of the crowd. So just take two things that you know that you can act on right now as an actionable item. And then you are now moving from just being a person absorbing information to a person who's turning that information into action. As my daughter pointed out on her silver training, and I hope you all watched that because I thought it was quite profound, her training on going silver, her tips for going silver. What did she say? The law of attraction plus action is what changes everything, what gets results. Yeah, so without the action, it's just pointless. You gotta throw the pebble in the pond. You can stare at the center of the pool all day long. You can contemplate throwing that pebble in the pool all day long, but it's not going to create any ripples. The action, throwing the rock in the pond, that's going to create the ripples. Any thoughts, any questions? We can call this an early night.
I have a question on the weekly Better Way. This, you've called to the action of each of us. You certainly set the stage in the model, Micah, and we haven't had guests.
We?
So we, the Better
Who's
Way.
we?
We, the weekly Thursday night Better Way, the wellness
Okay.
preview, as you just said. That so
Who's the owner of that call?
well, you just said each of us that are building our businesses should be having our people there, but you also said that we need to be working with our own teams. And so that was, what's the takeaway for me is exactly that. So you're doing your own wellness previews you did with these three, and then now you'll be training them to do their own wellness previews.
Well, I'm not doing an online preview as everybody show up at this time. It's been individual presentations. It's ABCs. Okay, so in the ABC, the content has been that. So I have two conversations. I have the how conversation in the ABC, which is a recap of what they may have seen online through the online portal. And we talk business, we talk products, we talk whatever it is that needs to be talked about and advance them to the next step. The next conversation usually happens when they're signed up. That's the what conversation. And the what conversation is where I get into the business strategy. I call it the business plan and launch strategy. And in that PowerPoint or that presentation, I'm presenting to them what it takes to get started. So what exactly do we do? That helps them get a bit of an orientation. It also points them directly to this, which is a page that I can either, you all have access to this. If you don't, ask your upline because they do. This document you can either get at Life and Balance Tools. I like making sure that they leave, if they all leave my house, they leave with one of these. Okay, I just got a shipment of 50 of these to hand out. So what's inside of this is all the things you've ever seen me pull out. You see me pull out this, and you see me pull out this, and you see me, you know, all these things, the incentives and so forth. I pull these things in a pack, a getting started pack, so that they have a way to get started. Now, not all of these things are digital, but I do have enough. We all have them on tools, the tools WhatsApp chat. Again, ask your immediate upline to ask for this. If you want, this is called My Nikan Business Plan. It is digital, so there's a PDF of this, although a PDF is not very useful unless they print it out. But the point is, there is a system I'm following, because if I don't have this, what do they have? What are they pointing to when they sponsor somebody? So this may not be very elaborate, maybe not the prettiest thing or whatever. I'm sure somebody could do a way better job, but it doesn't matter. It's something that I can point to, that they can point to, we can follow together, and it gives them very simple instructions on what do we need to do to get started. So there's a system. Does everybody follow the system? No. I don't expect them to. I expect 1/3 of the people who join to do nothing. I expect 1/3 of them to do something, but nothing structured. And then I expect 1/3 to actually follow instructions. Now, how do I know to expect that? Well, with 29.5 years experience, you pretty much know what to expect. We call that the rule of thirds, but I learned that a long time ago, that it was a rule that is unavoidable. No matter how good you are, no matter how much you know, it's simply unavoidable. And the reason this is because we live in a society that is okay with telling white lies. We live in a society where a handshake is no longer okay, enough. We live in a society where people have legal contracts to get out of the deal they just made. Okay, that's the society we live in. So you can't take people at their word, because their word doesn't mean anything. Only their actions do. Their actions betray them. So I look for actions. I don't care about words.
Mike,
Yes.
that just reminds me of what Lisa Nichols said a few months back on was it Marina Worry's wonderful conference. She says she watches the feet, not the
Not the lips. It's so true. And I guess we've all learned it the hard way. We've all learned it that way. My girls, you want to help them avoid the pitfalls, but you can't. You really can't. Everybody always asks me, and I've been asked this question a few times on these ABC calls. It's a really astute question when somebody says, "What's the most difficult thing? What can I look forward to as the most difficult challenge?" And I say, wow, that's a great question. Not everybody asks that question, but when they do, I think that's a really astute question. And I say, I can tell you what I've been telling my girls, what I tell everybody. The most difficult thing about this business is learning that people don't mean what they say, and they don't say what they mean. That is so hard to deal with. And if you heard my niece Elena on the call, on the Seiko Kai call, or was it Master Date, whatever it was, the last call that she was on, she said this message to her caused her to start considering herself and her own behavior as to when does she not stay in integrity? When is she not doing that? And I tell her that's humans being more. So humans being more is when you become more aware of where you are out of integrity or where you are out of balance, and you become a better person because of it. When you start seeing, when people start dropping the ball on you, it doesn't feel good. So then you stop doing it to others, and that's very good. So yeah, the most difficult challenge is having to deal with that if you've never had to deal with that before. Confronting that truth. because people just say what they think you want to hear most of the time. And then when you're young in that age group that they're in, it's all about how you look. You know, all their Facebook and not even Facebook, Instagram and all that. The only thing they ever show is their glam shots, the perfect moment in their life. And that's all you ever see. So nobody ever actually shows you the truth. So then when you confront it, when you ask somebody, hey, you said you were going to call, or hey, you said you were going to order your product. And well, you know, this, and then you start to hear, I see, double speak. That's what we've taught these people. So, well, when your politicians are just doing it day and night, how do you think the rest of the population is going to take it? It's time for the world to change. And how the change is going to come is when people start saying what they mean and meaning what they say. And we hold everybody accountable, including ourselves, when they don't. We stop acting politically correct, because that's when you lie about the truth about how you're feeling or what you really want to say. Political correctness goes out the window and truth and honesty comes forward. That's the world I want to live in. That's the world I want to help create. How about you? Yeah. How do you know a politician's lying? Their lips are moving. Just remember what it takes to be a politician. You gotta win a popular vote, which means you gotta, you know, win a popular vote. The worst of the best of the worst. You got to be popular. That means you got to kowtow, whatever they call it, to everybody. And that's not honesty. That's not integrity. You're not going to win my vote that way. I have a raised hand. Madeline, are you wanting to say something? I see Paul has
I already did. Sorry, didn't take the hand down.
Paul Gabius, you've got your hand raised.
Yes, I do. I have an event on Friday nights at 6 p.m. and I use it as a sorting tool. Again, that's not only that, but so people tell me they want to do stuff, but they can't even show up for something that they've been told is happening on a regular basis. It helps me sort, because I've been around long enough that I'm sorting. You know, that's what we do. We sort. We're not here to manage people. And that tool, that Friday night, is a sorter. Just like the wellness previews used to be. People don't show up for the wellness previews. Well, you know, they're not interested in a rhythm.
Yeah. But it's also important they understand the importance of the rhythm. So teaching it and having this platform and this recording, for instance, could be useful for you to say, hey, you're missing the ball here.
Yes.
Yeah, they need to know why it's important. It's no different than, you know, we talk about this. How do you get results? It's compounding. What is compounding? It's the little choices that we make consistently that compounds. So what are those choices? What is those? That's that rhythm. That's that, you know, it's bowling night Thursday night. And if you know, if it's Thursday night, you know where I am. Well, I'm just saying that not everybody's a bowler. I'm not a bowler, but if you're a bowler and Thursday night's your bowling night, well, you know where Joe's going to be is going to be at the bowling alley on Thursday night, because that's the rhythm. And where else is the team going to be? At the same bowling alley, because that's the thing that they do Thursday nights. That's the tribe. That's their culture. That's the thing that they got going on. And if anybody misses it, it's like they missed, you know, their lifeline. So we need to create that experience if we're going to create momentum. There's another question. Okay. I'm going to say something, but it slipped my mind. So that's all right. Thanks for joining. I hope you found this call useful. I do really believe that the rhythm of the business is the key to momentum, and without momentum, you can't have movement. You've got to create movement. Now imagine all of us, there was 26 people on this call. Imagine we all together decided September was going to be a launch month. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Now, the word now, make sure that that word is used in your mind, in your vocabulary, in your, this word now is so important. I'm looking for who to work with now. That doesn't mean they're not going to come around sometime later. That's not an issue. I'm only scanning or sorting for who's ready to go now. And I do prompts, I do things to create a now movement. So for instance, the call on Wednesday is going to be very specific. I'm going to be offering an incentive for those who go executive, those who go silver in the month of September. And it'll be a nice incentive. Over and above what Nikan offers. Why? Because I know not everybody's going to take it up, but somebody is. And that's who's going to get my attention in September. I'm always looking for who's going now. And that's who I put my thrust behind. That's who I put my energy behind. So just remember that. You may have a bunch of people. Don't get lost in the bunch of people. Get a now person. Focus on a now person and get that person up through the, the hoop. Get that touchdown. Get that win. Those wins are important. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Have a great month end. See you next time.
Thank you.
Excellent
night.
call.
Thank you for the rhythm.
Yeah.